Hey, Justin, welcome back again for another exciting session and with exciting topic. How are you today?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you. It's been a couple weeks, so it's good to get back in the discussion with you.
So thank you again, Justin, for taking out your precious time and very busy time you're going through to contribute to this knowledge sharing session. So thank you.
Absolutely.
So today we'd like to talk about steering committee and the importance of steering committee, what role they play with respect to your project or program, how they can be more beneficial to the projects, success of the projects. So there are a few questions I will be asking, we're going to discuss today. Yeah, so you have any initial thought on why do we really need a project steering committee? Anyway, do we really need?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting topic, and part of some of the organizations that I've been a part of throughout my career, for especially in the last I would say 15 years, in the traditional PMI way of a steering committee. Not necessarily, it's not the traditional way, but certainly those group of stakeholders where you can use steering committee very loosely, but yeah, they're certainly the ones that are providing the guidance, oversight, and really kind of making sure that we're on the path from a program portfolio standpoint, making sure we're aligned within all the company goals. Especially as a project manager, at least in my experience, especially when I was younger, but even now, you become like you're drinking through the fire hose, and sometimes you can forget or lose sight of the of some of the goals, and making sure that you're aligned. And so, the way that I always have kind of looked at a steering committee is really my how do I want to say it? More my eye in the sky, and kind of like my reminder on my shoulder, like, hey, don't forget about this, from time to time. And that's kind of the way I've always looked at it, because sometimes when you get bogged down in the daily operations, and you're constantly working through challenges that you're having through the construction or install phase, whatever it may be. You kind of lose sight of some of that bigger macro picture. So, from a steering committee standpoint, that's kind of really how I view them. And certainly, even not just from a specific project or program standpoint, I even would use those type of stakeholders that would be involved in that steering committee is even mentors. Like, hey, here's something that I'm facing with a challenge, and provide some of the perspective for them, and really see provide that kind of guidance. Certainly, typically in my experience, the steering committee members have a lot more experience than I do, and definitely not afraid to ask them. Sometimes you got to be a little humble, and they've gone through very similar things a lot of times, and now I'm kind of in that position where I'm able to share with some of the newer project managers within our organization different tricks of the trade that I've found out, through learning experiences or trials and tribulations, to be able to share those experiences and knowledge, so that they don't have to go through the pain or the heartache that you had to experience yourself.
Exactly. I mean, I like the way you put together all your steering committee concept, because they are like your big brother is, or godfather, because you are so much involved into projects and program and do day-to-day chaos and running around. You forget to see a few things, very obvious things. But somebody from outside, hey, you're missing something, tapping on the shoulder, hey, look, I think you if you move this way or do this way, things can be better. So they are the group of generally they're group of executives. They are representing various stakeholder groups. They of course look from their interest point of view. From, let's say, they're a beneficiary, so they look for the benefit point of view. Hey, how much benefit I'm getting? Then I'm getting. Of course, that side is very important. And the other group is more like they're providing services, support for your team, because they are providing other resources or any of they impacted negatively, positively from your program projects. So they also there to see how your program is navigating and how they can support to make the decisions. And then another important person, which can be very, very important as a sponsor, who's sponsor generally the final authority within the program or project concept. So all these are important, and the way you said, okay, sometimes people see them, hey, they are already finding faults in me, they're not supporting, they always, a lot of politics going on. Yeah, so that may be there in some organization or some places, but you have to, you have to select the right people in the board. When you say board, is a governance board or steering committee, one thing, and build relationship with them. And you rightly mentioned, they can be your support, they can be your mentor, as you do with your new project managers. Because at the end of the day, there everybody's stake is there. If the project or program fails for any reason, then obviously it's not you failing, the other project manager. They also fail, or they also successful because of you. That's why it is. I mean, good.
Yeah, absolutely. And even to add one more point to that, sometimes I know that as a PM, it can be to where you almost view the steering committee at times when, of course, they're giving you what can be perceived as criticisms or anything like that, and sometimes a PM can look at it and get kind of upset and almost take it personal. And again, as we've discussed and established before, I always come at things from my student athlete type perspective. My football days where I was always taught. My dad instilled in me a long time ago. When a coach is yelling at you or giving you criticisms, it's because they care and they know that you're capable of being better. When they're not giving you those critiques and things, that's actually truly when you need to be worried, because that may mean that they've given up on you. And so I've always taken that type of perspective of, hey, there is always room for improvement, no matter what position you're in. And so, always take the criticisms or whatever you want to call it, in a positive light to make yourself better.
Yeah, it's very, very important point you mentioned, because they're criticizing not because they have a habit of that or they're born like that. It's more about the care for the success of your project, care for you. They want to support you. So if you take this as a positive criticism and see what is still missing in your delivery or what else they are expecting, it can be improved actually. The relationship can be improved or better as well.
No question. Yeah.
All right. So my next question is, whether the steering committee act as a buffer for project or program manager?
Yeah, I think it definitely does, and in my perspective as well, especially working with some other companies throughout my career, as the corporate enterprise level that is bringing different requirements down to the project manager levels or even below, in each operational divisions, whether it be logistics, procurement, things like that. The challenge always can be where the enterprise level, it doesn't necessarily have that understanding of the uniqueness of each division, where kind of one size fits all mentality that specific projects, like especially with what I've dealt with, and we typically work in U.S. requirements, based on the nature of our work that I've been a part of for 15 years, but and we typically like to follow those as closely as we can. But given the fact that we do a lot of work overseas, there's kind of that gray area where we really want to take the best of U.S. standards, but yet understanding the fact that some of that may not even be possible based on the unique environment that we're operating in. And so sometimes having those challenges coming down from that enterprise level, the way I see that steering committee, and that's something that those folks can truly be your ally, and handle that type of stuff where, as a PM, as we all know, you're bogged down in the daily operations and reporting and everything like that, and you just don't have time to always fight those battles, so to speak. And so utilizing those folks as that buffer to really, and if those requirements are, non-negotiable from the enterprise level, have them help you with that to be able to take those extra burdens off of you, so that again you can focus on the execution and the stakeholder engagement and things like that. So using those folks, to help the overall project and efficiencies. Because undoubtedly there's, just as they call it, necessary bureaucracy sometimes, and having those folks at that level that can truly have that macro level view, I think, is important, and being able to use them as truly the buffer will ultimately make you successful.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a very important group of people which sitting between you and the organization, and they're bringing right, whatever applicable to your project, and you also pass the information. They will pass the relevant information to the senior managers. So yeah, they can help you with escalation. They can help you with some of the things which you cannot handle at your level. You escalate it to them, maybe because of their seniority, because of their experience, which they have gained over many years, and they can help you out with the, that's where buffer, having a buffer, I see that as a buffer as well.
Yep.
Good. All right. So when does the steering committee feel some need to criticize project manager or question your project management approach?
How many times a day? I think even when things are going well, and again, I think that's one of those, we kind of touched on it earlier. You're always seeking feedback, even when things are going extremely well. Profits in great shape, operations is great, your team cohesiveness is all there, stakeholders are happy. There's going to be something that, number one, you can be better at, or your team can be better at, or can we respond better, provide better information. There's always going to be something. So I think it's even more important, to hear the criticism, so to speak. Let's just call it that. I don't necessarily want to classify it as criticism, but I think it's more important to hear those type of things when things are going well versus when they're going wrong. Because a human nature, our worst critics are ourselves. So when we know things are going wrong, we know, and we're beating ourselves up because as PMs, it's almost like that project is really becomes your livelihood. And it takes on that whole everything that your life is built around. And so when things are not going well, it's you bring that home, whether you're on the road or you're going home to your family, that stays with you. And even when you're probably laying in bed before you go to sleep, you're still thinking about that stuff when things are not good. But when things are going well and everything's great, you kind of get complacent, and that's when things, you start to think that, oh, I got it all under control, we're on cruise control, and then all of a sudden something can happen, and whether you weren't monitoring the risks properly, again, like I said, that's the steering committee, is that reminder sitting on your shoulder of, hey, like, let's, we're not finished with this project. Let's not celebrate, we're not in the end zone yet. So let's get there first. So for me, I always view that type of feedback, whether I like it or not, sometimes I still, will discuss or think about those things, digest them, kind of do some research probably, and almost do self-assessments if there's anything that I need to refine my approach with, or anything like that. again, I think that feedback, especially when things are going well, is critical. So always making sure that you're taking it in a positive light. Don't take it personal. I think a lot of folks,
Yeah.
will take that personal. It's not. It's just business, and we all have a job to do, and it's their job to be looking at that, to be on guard. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's where they are playing very important role. And you previously mentioned that if somebody is criticizing you, that means they care for you. They want to see that you are successful. And your example about your coach, if they're not yelling at you, they're not criticizing, that means they're given up on you. That's enough, let's he will be fine, he will be okay. But yeah, criticism is important, and whether positive or negative, we have to see this. If somebody is criticizing negatively, why it's going on, whether something is missing out. We always start saying, hey, probably he or she has a problem. Always have a habit of criticizing. But maybe something else they like to see improvement in you. What else is missing? And that's where self-realization, self-assessment is also important for a project manager. Hey, why this person is not happy with this, my report or my presentation or my projects. I'm seeing this as success, and he's still not seeing success. Yesterday I was watching this movie. It's a very new movie. It's about Argentinian, some war coming out, and they had some. They're talking about how to, prosecutor talking about this particular army and Air Force people. They played very bad role during that time. So they wanted to, they want to see that justice should be given to all those people who have suffered because of it. So he got the result. He got the result. Out of 10 of them, 7 got, or 6 of them got a life sentence. 2 of them still not got. So he's still assessing why it's happened, why they have not given the life sentence to those other 2 people. Anyway, so that's where you assess yourself. Something is still missing in your approach. What was that? Yes, celebration, you mentioned, we start celebrating sometime too early, but you need to see, okay, somebody will come, hey, wait, something is still missing. That's where, criticizing, I think it's don't take it negatively. Yes, assess yourself. Something is still missing. What is missing? Let me fix it. Lesson learned are important. You may get lessons from that, and try to make your future project or the remaining project even better. That's how I see.
Yeah, I agree. One of the gentlemen that I would consider that I've been mentoring, he knows that I'm very hard on him, and it's not because I want to, just drill him. It's because I know he's capable, and being that way with him is only going to make him better, and he knows that as well. And so, that having that understanding and being able to sometimes be a little bit more blunt with him, but again, it's not, nothing personal. I'm just want to make you better. And so that's definitely, great things to have. And certainly I was fortunate enough to have senior leadership in younger days in my career that provided me with that same brutal, honest feedback to make me who I am today.
Exactly. And I don't remember my father, shouting at me, criticizing me, because he know that I have potential, and I'm not going up to that potential now.
Exactly.
And so he can see from different outside of you, and some, you're doing great. You think that I'm doing best, but and as outsider, as a father, he can see that no, you have still more potential. You are not giving the 100% of you.
Right. You still got another 15% in you. Like, let's get it out of you.
Yeah, and probably they see you as a project or program that the success is there. You're not able to see that because of your blind, your narrowness in thinking, or you're too worried. Yeah, leave this apart and let's make it happen. Positive, yeah. It's very important. Somebody is looking after the criticizing you, and something. And I see that in the partner, when you have a partner, you say, hey, he always criticize you, he always criticize, just because they care for you and they wanted to you to be successful.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Justin. So, do middle managers are well prepared for each steering committee meetings? You think so?
Situationally, depends. I would say if things are going well, again, probably not as well prepared as when things are not going well. Then everybody has their ducks in a row, I would say. We've dealt with some of those challenges in recent months where there's been some issues on site, and we needed to have the proper documentation, everything else. Here's why we're where we're at, and this is what needs to happen in order for us to be able to move forward. And so absolutely, you have to have your ducks in a row at that time, because otherwise you're going to get bulldozed and ran over like a truck. Otherwise, though, but when things are going well, that's when folks let their guard down a little bit, and I think that can be a challenge. And so, at least that's my perspective on that. I think it would depend certainly on each individual functional managers or middle managers' backgrounds and the subject of the discussion in those meetings. But depending on how do I want to say it, the significance, which we all know that our project is the most important in the organization, right? But some folks don't view it that way. And so with some of those middle managers may be negative stakeholders and have a negative view of the particular project. So they may just want to come in and spoil the party, so to speak. But so they may not necessarily be as well prepared, but they have their biases and their talking points or agenda to be able to derail the efforts. So those are all some of those different components within. But I've also been blessed to be part of some organizations, to include my current one, where you're working with some true professionals that again, retired 2-star, 3-star, 4-star Army military generals that truly been to the top. And that's any time that I have a chance to go back and forth with those accomplished individuals, I am taking advantage of every second that I can, and I'm just being a sponge and soaking up everything that they have to say. That's an opportunity that can really refine your craft, listening to folks that have truly been to the top.
And I think it's a good idea to have roles and responsibility also identified, and also educated them. Hey guys, you're playing a very important role as part of the steering committee, and these are your roles and responsibilities, and this is where you want to support the project and program. So clarity of his roles and responsibility is very important. Having the right structure, governance structure, the escalation paths all defined can also help you to have these middle managers or the managers ready for these steering committee meetings.
Yeah, I agree. The challenge can sometimes be, especially with the escalation path, as we all probably have experienced, again, within the professional world, where someone may have a better relationship with someone that's more influential. So that escalation path can get very muddy and clear as mud at sometimes. And so navigating that and some of the, what I like to call the political factors, different stakeholders in the environment that you're within, whether it be, certainly an external as well. Those are some of the challenges that you certainly got to navigate.
I mean, they're biased in political environment, and there are other things going on. Those sometimes not in your control, but what you can do as a project manager, hey, is my sponsor and my steering committee really well prepared, and they know how they're going to support me. And one of the ways you can make them prepared is having an agenda ready and distribute the meeting agenda in advance. Let them know these are the things we're going to discuss, and this is where you're looking their guidance. and that's what you can do from your side. And
yeah, I agree with that. And as the PM of your project, you need to be, we all know the sponsor should be the champion, but as the PM, the way I see it is you need to even be more of the champion than the sponsor. You're truly the one that is there. There's a level of salesmanship, I think, as well, and not in a slime ball way, but a way that the way in which you engage with all of your stakeholders, to include the steering committee, to make sure that they understand that full picture. And if the PM of that project is not necessarily excited about what they're doing, or the way that they present themselves to the steering committee can kind of be perceived in a negative way, you become your own downfall in a lot of those ways. And so really, being that cheerleader and being excited and showing that, hey, by us doing this, I've been talking with our customer on the ground there. They're looking at the possibility, because we've done such a great job there. This is going to lead to another opportunity, that could be added onto this particular contract, where they want these added capabilities now that they see what it is that's happening, and these different ideas and customer wants can be add-on type services, or additional opportunities for the company, and ultimately result in growth. So always having that mentality of, again, being the biggest cheerleader, and really, again, being kind of a bit of a salesperson to your project. No one's gonna do it for you. You have to be a champion for it.
Yeah. I mean, yes, they are more like support around you, but you are the one who's driving all the way from start to end. They're looking from outside, they help you, navigate you, but at the same time, you need to educate them as well, that, hey, we're going to discuss this, and these are the different problem I'm facing. Not just go with the problem, but talk about the potential solutions around that.
Right.
Because you don't assume that because you are involved into day-to-day problem and day-to-day work, and you can see things better than them. But when you go to them with the problem, they're expecting, hey, come to me with 2 or 3 options as well, and I will able to see, we will able to see through our own angle, our own sight, and guide you with that. That's what they expect.
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest challenge, especially when you can, as a PM, you can talk about any particular issue in your sleep, but being able to clearly communicate and paint the proper picture for those folks in the steering committee to be able to again, be your advocate to, if you're dealing with a particular challenge that has to be escalated, making sure that they have a crystal clear understanding of the full picture. Because if they don't have that, it can get lost in the mix, and then the actual issue doesn't get solved as it goes up the chain. Because once that steering committee escalates it to the next level, there's going to be a certain percentage that doesn't really get communicated as clearly as you could have. And so being able to make sure that the steering committee has that crystal clear understanding of the challenges and the full picture is going to set you up for the best solutions. I don't necessarily like to bring all of my problems to a steering committee unless I've really analyzed all the different options that I have at my own threshold before I truly start escalating things. And not only that, is when I do escalate it, I'm bringing them a little bit of maybe 2 to 3 options of, here's what I think could be the particular solution, and based on these 3 options that I've thought of. Number 1, with that steering committee, did I think of all the options? Number 1, I'd like to have that type of feedback, and if I did, great. Let's discuss, together to make sure as a committee and one team that we agree that the approach should be, out of the options that presented, we go with this one. But then also, if they have other ideas, or again, that's when we go back to the their experience is maybe they've dealt with something similar in the past. So having that open line of communication for that mentoring side can really alleviate a lot of that. But again, I don't. Maybe it's probably because my time working with the military is you don't want to just come to a higher ranking individual on the team and give them your problems. You gotta come with some solutions to the table as well.
Exactly.
Otherwise, that's what are they paying you to do? That they can just have that higher ranking person do it. So make sure that you're always coming to the table with not just a problem, but a possible solution.
Possible solution. Very, very important. Yeah. To make them ready. So they may not be prepared, but you can make them prepared for the meeting. So at the end of the day, you're looking their support, you're looking their guidance, and they will guide you if they are paid by you so that they can assist you.
Yep.
All right, good discussion. Thank you. So Justin, my next question is, what role does the business sponsor play during escalation and conflict of interest in steering committee meetings?
That's a great question. I'll be truthfully honest. I've not had a lot of experience with this one. Certainly, conflicts of interest are always on the mind, especially when you're working with some of the stringent requirements that we operate in on a pretty regular basis. So that certainly is something that utilizing them in all facets as much as possible. Again, that reoccurring theme of they're on your shoulder, reminding you of those things, I think is very helpful. But it can certainly be a challenge, as the different angles, and even that when there can be a perceived conflict of interest. There may be a case in point where, let's say we've used a provider for a particular solution in the past. We know they can get it done. They can deliver. They have that past performance. It can be perceived as a conflict of interest, at least on the surface. But having that, the sponsor and being able to having that business mind, being able to realize, hey, we recognize that this is what it can appear to be. But they can also be the champion and to be able to solve that. And ultimately, it just becomes a very transparent, thing where you don't create that animosity or folks start getting a little bit uneasy because the possible or what the perception is. And so making sure that clearing up any of those negative perceptions, I think that is certainly one of the biggest roles that those folks can really mitigate from a perspective, because it can turn into pretty ugly pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's where political games start. Let's say one of the steering committee member is very important, but he like to push his company of his brother-in-law or brother or somebody relative to get the business. So that's where you see the conflict of interest. Now, as a sponsor, you need to see what value this person is bringing. Maybe he's great. While he's relative to this person, maybe, okay, put this person out of discussion and evaluate from different angles. That's
right.
That's what I see. It's not just, okay, because he's related, let's not worry about him. Let's not put him here. Let's evaluate independently. That's fair.
Right. Perfect example is there's months ago now, there was a particular person that I recommended for a position and thought he'd be a great fit, and ultimately ended up getting invited to the interview, and of course I declined. I was like, that would certainly be a conflict of interest. I think everyone knows where I stand on this one. So I want you all to evaluate that person with no biases, and you tell me if you feel the same way. If you do, great. If not, no big deal. So again, having that transparency, I think, is very important, and those folks there on that steering committee certainly can help out with that as well. And again, it creates a very transparent and relationship and creates that great communication, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, putting all the facts together, that they know what is happening, what's wrong, right, from your point of view, and then they can see from the sponsor. At the end of the day, is the sponsor is a final authority within the project, and they like to see success or failure is not a good thing for them, and they like to see the project successful. So they need to help you out with escalation. Whenever the escalation, they need to work with you and try to figure out the path and give you right direction. And at any time, if they realize that something is not going on, they have to play an important role there. And whether steering, sometimes negative benefits are there, what to do with that. The sponsor can, okay, I know there are few people getting impacted because of this project. Let me work with HR. Let me work with the legal team. You may not have that thinking, but he or she has seen something similar in the past. They can bring that perspective into the picture.
Exactly. And sometimes, it's something that is not even caught by anyone, and it just all of a sudden, it just happens where all of a sudden, when things start to develop, you're going, "Oh, this could look really ugly." And so, again, having that relationship is very helpful.
Yeah. And moreover, sometimes you're so much connected as a project manager, so much connected with day-to-day work, you don't see, you get connected with the person, you connected with this issue so much, you not able to see through that. But somebody looking from outside as a sponsor, hey, this is how you're going to see that. This is where you're missing the point.
Yeah, as a PM, you're looking at, well, this particular person can help me with my problems and help me deliver. I don't care who it is. Let's get them on board. Yeah, let's make it happen. So I certainly understand that, and definitely, again, when in my experience, yeah, I of course you certainly send it through the proper process to evaluate it, but yeah, as a PM, you found that gold mine that can help you deliver. Yeah, you're just all about it. Doesn't matter what it is. Let's go.
Yeah, I can tell you my example when I'm doing puzzle, 1,000-piece puzzle. And sometimes I'm too much into this, and the problem I cannot see the pieces. But when I call my daughter, hey, can you help me here? And within a few seconds, hey, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and you fix it, and immediately my problem solved. So outsider, this business sponsor is not connected, while connected with your project, but not involved in day-to-day work. So they can see things which you're not able to see. So their view is totally different, maybe different than what you're doing. If they get involved into the project day-to-day activity, then you can't expect unbiased responses from them. So let them be outside, and let them see the things differently from outside.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Justin, my next question is, many project managers believe they will always succeed where others have failed. Have you fallen into this trap?
Yeah, as we all know, of course, I even like the saying, once you think about what you're going to do when you lose, you've already lost. So, as a PM, you have to be confident, but you also have to be humble. I've seen those type of traps before. And however, with that being said, I've also been a project manager for a couple projects that, from our company standpoint, have never been done. And as well as had a customer that we had, even within the industry, had not been done at that time. And so we didn't even know what we were getting into as a team. And so with that being said, to answer specifically the trap, I have not fallen into the trap, but what I've done before is, okay, if something has failed before, I'm the first one to research why did it fail. Before I jump in, just because you can't. You're very naive, and quite frankly, your ego is going to burn you if you just think, well, it's because it's me this time, it's going to work. That just simply is ignorant, and you're going to get roughed up pretty good. But again, having an understanding of what made it fail. Was it lack of support, or what kind of challenges on the ground? Going in there with a very wide-eyed view as to what is that made the last person fail, because you have to be humble, and the fact is that you could have a project that simply can't be a winner, so to speak. And so having that full perspective, to be able to make an informed decision, where I think again it becomes a deal where being upfront and honest. I always like to under promise and over deliver, quite frankly. I come from a sales background when I first came out of college, and it's done well for me. And you certainly never want to give a pie in the sky type promise or forecast. It's better to set the expectations that are more realistic and then deliver. And that doesn't mean lowballing and setting low goals and trying to just make yourself look like $1 million, so to speak. It's got to be realistic, but also having that understanding and make sure you communicate properly with your stakeholders, so that they have, again, that full picture, not just the steering committee, but folks on the ground, and making sure they understand, like, hey, we have to go through all this particular coordination and get approvals before we can even do this. So again, going in with that full perspective is extremely important. And I know some PMs can become a little bit full of themselves after they come in riding high after a great project, but the score is 0-0, and it's a new ball game now. So again, going in with that fresh perspective that this is a new ball game, and what you did before doesn't matter. So I think, again, so to speak, keeping it real with yourself is very important with that before you just jump in and get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, we need to always be aware that yes, success and failure is part of life, and we like to be succeeded all the time. At the same time, with the failure come, and you rightly said, what do we learn from that? If I'm doing the same project again, or somebody else going to do the same project, have we learned enough so we can avoid those problems again next time? So being humble is very important. Yes, things do go wrong, and accept it. If that fault happened because of you, accept it, and also tell, okay, this is what I'm going to do next time. This is what my learning from this, and
Right.
be ready for that. Yeah, I mean, in my mentoring program as a PgMP, I've seen a lot of people coming, going, and one person actually came to me. It's a long time back actually. He said, Dharam, I am always top in university, college, school, everywhere, and I had done this certificate, that certificate, and never failed in my life. And I don't know why I failed PgMP exam. And I cannot take this. And he was so frustrated about his failure. And he said, okay, Dharam, I'm going to try again. And he did again. And I gave him some advice. I know how to pass. I will do this. And the second time, he was not happy. Of course, he was very frustrated. The third time, he actually locked himself in a hotel room, and he's sending message after message. I said, look, this is something good, something disaster going to happen. But anyway, so he was not able to handle that failure. And he thought, I always win, I always got successive, and why I'm failing this? So look, the things can go wrong. And ultimately, he actually never gave up, and he passed exam, the PgMP exam after 5th attempt, which is not a bad, I don't see as a negative. He never gave up. One of the important things is never gave up, and he passed exam. But he initially was not ready for the failures. So as a project managers, time to time, we do see some not expected results. So be ready for that. But the important thing is, can I foresee things? Can I see things about to happen? if this about to happen as a project manager, what can I do? It's a risk. You identify the risk, evaluate it, identify it, and have a fallback plan. If this happens, this is what I'm going to do. So that's where the risk as a project manager, you can be more ready for unforeseen situation or some unexpected events.
Yeah, even your PgMP story. I mean, before I even met you, Dharam, I took that boot camp and certainly had some challenges at the testing center that particular day, and I failed it the first time. And that was the first. I wanted to be able to say that I didn't fail any PG or PMI exam, and I had by then I had already ran through the PMP, the RMP, the ACP, and I was on a roll, and I thought I did what was needed, and based on my experience before, and so the boot camp wasn't necessarily probably the best, but at that time, I thought I thought I was ready, and went there and did the exam, and I just missed it, and I was sitting there and like, oh, you're kind of, in that way, you're in a bit of a denial state, like, I just missed it, which I did, but at the same point, when I look back now after, going through working with you, and then going there and knocking the exam out in 2.5 hours. And, to this day, I still tell folks, I know that the first 100 questions on that exam, I know I got every one of them right. Like I knew it. And so, when looking back now, as that first failure when I did the PgMP, I didn't do enough to earn it, quite frankly, when I really look back at it now. And again, when I prepared properly for it, maybe I had to eat a little humble pie, so to speak. But that's when you reminded me that day, again. I'll never forget it. I was fighting you that day, and I wasn't necessarily fighting you, but was a little bit more argumentative with you about what the correct answer was in some of our practice problems. And you had said, well, sometimes we have to put our ego away to be able to go where we want to go. And again, as I've stated before, it hit me like a ton of bricks, but it was absolutely true. And I at that point, I needed to hear it. So from then, the rest is history. Obviously, knocking the PfMP out in short order right after passing the PgMP. So
exactly, and you did really well, actually. After PgMP, within 15-20 days, you got your PfMP out, which is another important event. And so it's as we can see, one of the best project manager, program manager can also fail. So anybody can fail. I know if I'm hiring a person, I like to see how many times the person has failed, not successfully. Successful. Everybody can claim I succeeded, I made this happen. But have you ever failed? Why I'm looking for that? Because have you learned from that?
Yes.
And are you resilient enough to go again? I was telling about this person. I was not trying to criticize him because he tried 5 times. I said he continuously, and also I have to give a credit to him because he was 65 of the age. Age-wise was also another thing. But he never gave up. How much resilience you have, how much can you sustain all the negativity and all this pressure around you and still make it happen? That's where the real project manager, the leadership quality, the leadership project management quality you want to show.
Yeah, you've never failed until you've given up.
Exactly.
It's only a failure at that time.
Yeah, once you've given up, then that's where you're out. Wow. Okay, good discussion. So how to handle reluctant, hostile, or negative stakeholders? We do get them, sometimes we have them,
Absolutely. I think it's probably part of a daily task as a PM. Certainly, I'll kind of allude to back. I know when I did or I think my PgMP and PfMP success story with you, Dharam, is for me this is how I'm able to help bridge that gap with those folks that have a negative view or whatever you want to call it. First off, I, I don't involve anything to do with the work aspect. I want to understand the person, want to understand their background, what kind of angles are they coming at this from, and perspectives, and I want to be able to find commonalities of similar interests. Certainly I like to play golf, I like to travel the world, whatever it may be. Maybe it's a favorite food or whatever. I want to understand what they're passionate about, and what commonalities we may have. I want to make a friend, being genuine about it, not being fake or anything like that. Being genuine and making a friend first, to where then you build that relationship up, to where then it allows for that easy communication back and forth between each other, to where it gets to the point that you can call each other up and be like, what's your problem? Why don't you like what this project is doing? You can have those blunt and honest conversations, and the hard conversations that are going to have to be had. And I think, again, having that commonality and understanding of one another is extremely important, because if you're just going to go to each one of you is going to go to your own corners, it's going to be nothing but a battle the entire time. As a PM, you're going to be absolutely exhausted, and you're always going to feel like someone is looking over your shoulder, trying to find a way to railroad the project and ultimately the success. So for me, that is what's been a very helpful thing. Like I give an example, yeah, with a negative stakeholder that I've had in the Middle East before, where quite honestly I think that there was a point where I nearly was probably either going to be nearly deported or even put in jail for a few days, simply because they had that power. And again, you have the cultural misunderstandings as well. This is years and years ago, to where they didn't understand what we were trying to do, and I was, I didn't have the wherewithal and the understanding of how to necessarily operate in that area of the country, and created some very tough problems. But as things kind of unfolded through the years, now I would consider them a very good friend, and to the point where whenever I do go down to that area and see them, we're having coffee and laughing about those times together. So taking that huge negative and turning it into a positive. And the way that I was looking at it, when the threat of possible deportation, I literally was like, at this point in time, like either I get what I need from this particular stakeholder, or the project isn't happening anyway. So I might as well go home at that particular time. So again, when him and I start talking about it now, we laugh about it, and he's like, actually, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, because if I wouldn't have done that for you, then it would have, you never would have gotten the project off the ground anyway. So having that understanding, was a big challenge. And of course, when you're in a different environment, and there was some challenges with, they weren't our direct customer, they were the end user, and so there was some challenges between the middle organization between mine and theirs, and having the misunderstandings, and then not being able to necessarily chat with them directly. And so it was a very difficult time, so to speak. But that I look back at that now, and while it was absolutely painful and stressful and everything else, from my perspective at that time, and I think there was even nights where I would work all night, like, and then get back up, and I wouldn't even go to sleep, and just go right back out there and keep going. And now I know I'm much better for it. There's some great lessons learned. And now we're able to, we've had similar projects all around the country and the region, and even greater, different parts of the world. And I'm always sharing that hard lesson that I had to go through, and that way others are able to avoid that particular situation. But again, from a negative stakeholder standpoint, get to know that person. And not only that, while during the time during the project, don't necessarily call that person to talk about problems. One of my big things is again showing that genuineness of, call them to just check on how's their kids doing, how's their kids game, how's the family doing, how did little Joey do well in his soccer game. Those are important things. And calling them to follow up with their actual lives and not just work, I think is very important. Again, it's at least the success that I've dealt with, and being able to turn those, quite frankly, stakeholders that wanted to literally destroy me to now being able to have coffee and tea and laugh about it. Great story, and certainly was one that I will never forget.
That definitely, very, thanks for sharing. It's very, very important to know about your stakeholder. Sometimes because he's acting or behaving negatively doesn't mean the person is like that. It may be you don't have the relationship at the moment. It's, as you correctly mentioned, know about your stakeholder, knowing about why, and sometimes just asking about the family there, or what's happening, the movie they watch, because sometimes the icebreaker is important. I'll tell you one example. It's about my HP experience, where I'm going to start this cloud setup for HP Asia Pacific level. And I'm coming with zero cloud experience, and I did data center setup and all kind of thing. But I have no idea about what is going to be technology point of view. Now I'm going to work with this network manager and network engineer and head of manager. And I was warned that he don't like project managers. He hates them and he don't want to talk to them. And guess what? I have to work. He's one of the best. He has to be one of my right arm to make it successful. So when I'm calling him and sending messages, not responding and not picking my phone, I said, okay, you know what? I'm actually, my mind start validating what other people told me. It happened that I have to go, and we have to go to data center together for something. And that's where my opportunity. I'm not asking what's happening, what's work and all kind of thing. I'm asking, hey, I did some analysis about him and what's his interest, what do you do, and what kind of game you like and what movie he likes, about the kids, as you mentioned. That's where the start building the relationship rapport. And then you start thinking, okay, you know what, we have some commonality and frequency match. And by the time we came back, by the time we came back from the data center, he said, hey, Dharam, I know you're new to the technology, you don't understand the cloud and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? Give me a call at any time, whenever you need. Just knock my door, I will be with you. If you need me to come to the meeting, I'm going to come with you. Because, when you have perception, other person are assuming, and you perceive your perception and other thing, you just make it more worse. Have some icebreakers and, talk to the person, talk not just work, which you like to, but let's put the work aside and ask what's going on in their life. Maybe something is going on in a personal level, which is impacting their performance or the relationship.
Yeah, it can't always be transactional. It just can't. And because then they're going to feel like, well, the only time they call me is when there's a problem and they need something from me. And that's just something that, no one wants to deal with that all the time. And so, yeah, having that, again, relationship to where, it's open and transparent, and being able to be honest with one another. So then you have that ability to have those hard discussions and being honest, and from both sides that it's not personal, and hey, this is just business. Once we handle that, we'll get back to talking about how we played golf last weekend or whatever. That has allowed me, at least that's what I've found in success with especially with the negative stakeholders.
And Thank you for sharing all this, and it's very important. And I hope people can see that. Don't just see stakeholder as negative. Sometimes they are, but it can be some underlying issues, and sometimes it can be you're not understood them properly, or they have not understood you properly. That's where some out of office meetings and out of office tea, coffee you have together, that can be useful for breaking the ice, finding the common ground, be useful for you.
Yeah.
All right. So my last question, and I hope last. It's actually last. How to find common ground and overcome occupational subcultures with respecting the differences in the steering committee meetings.
So I would say like an organizational subculture, or I would probably define more of like that political type. Would you agree with that, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think certainly understanding again the lay of the land, so to speak, but again, it goes back to what we literally just talked about. Again, understanding those folks outside of the work environment, getting to know those folks, I think is very important. But and certainly from a political perspective, or again, from a project manager standpoint, you don't necessarily have the entire macro level view of the enterprise, or everything else that's going on. Of course, you get bogged down in the daily stuff, and so coming not only when you're coming into a situation like that, again, almost have that assumption that you don't have the entire picture, going into that, with why are these folks acting like this? Is it me, or is it that? It's likely not have anything to do with you, and it's more to do with, hey, there's some different requirements coming down from the enterprise that, hey, we can't do this, and this is the reasons why. And that can alleviate a lot of those perceptions that, certainly there's going to be political things. Certainly folks want to make sure that, that everyone wants to move up. And so having that understanding, but I've always found that, your life can be very hectic if you get caught up in all of that all the time. The way I've always tried to view it, keep it very, as in the football world, they call it the KISS technique, KISS. Keep it simple, stupid, so to speak. I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I know being genuine, being transparent and honest, and being the biggest champion for your particular project, program, portfolio, whatever it may be. It keeps it simple, and I think over time, especially as you consistently are working within the same organization, and you likely end up coming across the same people and working with them over time, that they know that you're not going to get caught up in that. Sure, you have to play the game to a certain extent, but they know what you're truly about, and your genuineness. And if you stick to those things, you're going to be a lot more successful than not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's very important, because everybody coming from different perspective, different expectation, different requirement, different agenda. As you correctly mentioned, there's like some political agendas going on, or the personal, how can I be seen as more superior than others? So a lot of things are also going on, at the project level, at the personal level. So, sometimes, as having not always talking about the project and the problems and all that, finding the common ground, commonality, understanding, and the build relationship with them, that kind of, as you mentioned. Yeah. So, every project is going to be different, and every time the people behaving different. So understand why they're behaving like that. The past, maybe some agenda going on. Maybe it's, they have some biasness against you as a person, because of your culture, and again, your background, or some past experiences they had, whatever it is. So.
Yeah, no question. They might not like you because you cheer for a specific sports team, and they like the rival. I mean, but again, that's something that, again, I could easily turn into, a positive, and again, that's having that understanding and being able to give them, I always find laughter is, you got to be able to have some fun when you're doing this type of stuff. Otherwise, we'll all be in straitjackets, it can ruin you. And so, we're obviously always working hard, but you got to have some fun while doing it and having some laughs, because otherwise it'll take you a prisoner. And so I think it's very important to be able to have some fun and keep it light when you can and be serious when you need to. But again, it's all that relationship building that can really overcome those type of things.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah. So another thing is you also have to be ready with whatever you're doing. If you're not in control of your project, then you kind of see everything coming from anyone is a negative, because
Right.
because you're not confident. So if you are confident with the project and you know what's going on, what you're expecting from them, then yes, there are fundamental problems going on with themselves, but at the same time, they will not pick on, they know, okay, this person is controlled, and let me support him and navigate them through that.
Yeah, well, and especially when you're a new project manager, they're going to test you. We'll see what this person's made of. And especially at that beginning stages, if you don't know, if you're not well organized and well versed and understanding with with what's going on and being able to answer those questions pretty quickly, they're doing that for a reason, because they're testing you. And so, when a new PM is coming into that, they're going to probably likely be a little bit more standoffish, but you have to prove yourself. Once you do prove yourself, within a couple of weeks, it becomes a completely different, ball game. In my experience, I've come into to certain projects before where they don't know me, they don't know our organization, and they are, we're like the new kid on the block, and they're going to absolutely test you, and you need to be ready. But once you've been battle tested and you've proven to that customer that you can do it, they're coming to you going, hey, we're going to have this coming up soon, this opportunity, and you guys certainly have the capabilities, and we hope you have interest in that once it comes out, and then all of a sudden you become the favorite to be able to continue to grow that relationship. And I've been fortunate to have it with a couple customers where, even though I don't necessarily work with them anymore, I still keep in touch with them. And back years ago, it was pretty rough from time to time. And again, now that when we laugh about it, because we literally went through a battle together as far as a particular project that had many complexities, and a ton of different organizations on the ground that quite frankly had a huge financial benefit to be able to blame us for delays. And so they were certainly trying to look at ways to point the finger. And so being able to be in lockstep with that particular customer and having that transparency, ultimately allowed us to be successful. Otherwise, we would have been absolutely railroaded and been blamed for it. And we probably wouldn't have that relationship that we have now with one another, because you look back at it, and that's when you truly build that camaraderie, and you'll always be able to look back with those particular folks that you were on the ground with and went to battle with. It's I find those kind of those retrospectives and looking back at that, and those are probably one of my favorite things to do, quite frankly.
Yeah. So you're in steering committee is also like we that Tuckman letter. Tuckman letter, the guy who gave this theory of norming, forming, norming,
Right.
storming, forming. Forming. Yeah, you probably know that. So there's a storming stage where everybody is trying to test you there correctly, they're testing you out. If you survive that testing time, then you have a great relationship with them. So that's where when finding the common ground, understanding more about them as the stakeholders, steering committee members, and outside of the steering committee meeting with them, tea, coffee, or maybe sometimes drinks together, playing golf together can also help you to finding those commonalities, the relationship and engagement, and then once you have established, when the project goes up and down, when downtime, they also understand, we're gonna help you, we're gonna work together, we're gonna go through this together.
Yep, absolutely.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Justin. It was a very insightful discussion, and the kind of way, the way you explaining these using your own experience is wonderful and helpful to talk about some of the most difficult topics and making it easy. And thank you for doing all this thing.
Always appreciate our time together, Dharam. It's always a fun time, and of course I miss you. It's like a void. I don't have class with you anymore. I almost feel like I need to take a certification just to see you a little more. So
I know. All right. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again in the next program. Thank you.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it. Have a good day.